Hello and welcome to this episode of Quaker. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how we can be Quakers every day. I know that when we are at meeting, for example, or when we're taking part in a protest for climate change or something like that, then it's quite, well, against climate change, obviously. It can be quite easy to feel like a Quaker. But how can you feel like a Quaker every day? Are there times when you feel, well, I'm just like every other person? Why I want to feel more Quakerly? How can I feel more Quakerly when I'm not at meeting, when I'm not taking part in a protest, and when I'm not speaking truth to power? When can I do that? And how do I do that? So that's what I'm going to be looking at. What can we do? And I've come up with 5 tips as to how to be a Quaker every day. Now, you might also notice we've got a second kitten because one wasn't enough, and this one doesn't leave us ever. So she's here. She's sleeping at the moment, but who knows? I don't want to move her, but we'll see. Anyway, back to Quakering every day. So this video came about because, a bit of a strange one actually. I work in a school where it is mandatory for men to wear ties. And I'm growing increasingly uncomfortable with that. Mainly because ties don't serve any purpose, realistically, anymore. Um, they are primarily there, in schools at least, to teach children, or to model to children, look, we're wearing ties because we're adults and we're working, and you're wearing ties because you're getting prepared to work. And in the workplace, you will have to wear a tie. And so here is me wearing a tie, you're wearing a tie, it's all good. But the thing is, no one wears ties anymore, do they? I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel a bit, if I'm going out after work or something into the shops or something, I'm the only one in a tie. And so I'm kind of thinking, well, what is the purpose of this? And so my Quakerness of simplicity is coming out and thinking, well, this serves no purpose to anyone. And I don't want to wear it because I feel like all it's doing is me trying to make myself look all fancy and more than I am. And I didn't like it. So I spoke to my boss and sort of started having this conversation about it. And I mentioned, oh, and also I'm a Quaker, and in terms of my values of simplicity, I don't think it really fits in. And he turned around, I didn't know you were a Quaker, and that irked me awfully. I felt, how could you not know I'm a Quaker? But then I don't see him every day, and a very interesting conversation ensued from that, and it was really nice. But he should have known I'm a Quaker, and not blaming him, I'm blaming myself, because I should have done something. I don't know. I've been working there for nearly a year now. He should know that I'm a Quaker, and so it's probably because I'm not doing these kind of things. So, as I said, I'm talking about general day-to-day things about being a Quaker. What can we do? So obviously, going on from what I've just said, the first thing we can do is obviously just tell people we're Quakers. It's very interesting. Not many people are Quakers, unfortunately, and people sometimes know stuff. I've had quite a lot of interesting conversations with people who I didn't think would know or care much about Quakerism and actually have something to say, or like, oh yeah, I went to a Quaker school actually, or oh yeah, I come from this place and there's a meeting just down my road, and it starts off this conversation and then suddenly people are talking about Quakerism. And it's starting from you, and I think that's really good because it is interesting. And if people turn around and say, "What on earth is that?" which I've had as well, another interesting conversation and an opportunity to talk about Quakerism. Now, obviously, it's not the same as evangelizing. I'm not saying, "Oh, talk about Quakerism," and then say, "Now, come along to meeting on Sundays with me and see what it's like. Come, come, come." But no, thanks. Not saying that, but that you're talking about Quakerism outside normal Quaker times, if you know what I mean, when you're at work or when you're with friends. Do your friends know that you're a Quaker? Do they know what that means? Do they talk about you being a Quaker or what? If we're talking about these and having a conversation about Quakerism, then people might have questions and they might ask things that you don't know. And then you need to find out, and that increases your knowledge of Quakerism and your faith and things like that. Yes, I know. You know I'm a Quaker. So yes, tell people, have the conversations, because that could be really interesting and really fruitful. My second piece of advice for being a Quaker every day would be to have a go at reading the advices and queries every day. Not all of it, but some of it. Read 2 or 3, and try and read it in the morning and try and see how that has influenced your how that can influence your day, or maybe talk about maybe have a look at it after your day and see what how maybe you could have improved your day having thought about that and bring that into your next day or something like that. If you're engaging with or tuning your mind to like you would in meeting, then that's a really good way of one being more Quaker and also reflecting, which is also being more Quaker. So I think I think, it's often one of the very first thing or one of the last things I read during meeting. But why can't I do that every day? They come in those nice little books. You can get it on your phone and read them. And I think that'd be a really good way of reflecting and just by process of immersion, making yourself act in a more Quakerly way throughout your day. The good thing, on a sort of similar vein to that, is have a time for silence in your day. And I'm rubbish at this because I because who has time? You're trying to go through your day and you're trying to um you've got deadlines to meet and I don't know, you might have a lunch meeting or whatever. Who has time for minutes for silence? Um but if you take that time, I've got this time when I come in really early into work. And I really like it when I can take at least 3 minutes in order just to center myself, have a sort of check-in meeting with myself, with the inner light, and try and just feel some form of calm. I'm not saying it's a meeting for worship. I'm not saying that that's exactly the same as what I do in a meeting for worship. But is that silent contemplation that I really enjoy from meeting that I can take into my workspace or into my day to day, could be at a weekend, before I'm going out on a walk, or whilst I'm on a walk. Don't get to do that in meeting. And just try and explore your Quaker muscles that you build during meeting and take it outside meeting and try it at other points in order to, one, practice for meeting for worship, but then also to bring that sort of holiness and that sense of togetherness that you get in meeting outside of meeting, making your whole life holy or making your whole life Quakerly in a much more fuller way than we do if we only do it once a week. Sort of like a sidestep on that, not necessarily a whole point on itself, but why not try and go with other Quakers, try and have a meeting for worship outside of Sunday at 10:30? Why not have if you can, a couple of you, why not have a meeting for worship on a Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening or or whenever you have time, work it out. I think we can't be we I feel that meeting for worship can become too stagnant as to when it is and how it's done. And I think that's okay because Sunday morning is a time when most people are free. It's very convenient. But it doesn't have to be every Sunday. And it shouldn't be necessarily. And, but then you don't have to be a whole formalized thing. If there's a couple of you who are available and think that that would be something that's beneficial and useful, then do it. Rule number four, then, riffing off the last one, which is riffing off, it's all fitting in very nicely. The next thing would be to talk to other Quakers, build a community, meet up with Quakers outside of meeting and after meeting. Because, and I think I'm going to be talking a bit about this a bit more, is that I think we're losing our sense of community as a society. You know, I don't want meeting for worship to be the only time that I see these people necessarily. Now, I'm not saying that we always need to be with them. Sting. Ah. Well, where was I? Community. Yes. Or lack thereof. Yeah. Because there used to be a time when Quakers like only married inside other Quakers and shunned the world and only spent time with other Quakers. And I'm not saying that we should do that, but I think neither is the opposite okay, that these are people who we only ever see at this one time. And also, these are people who we worship with. And I think these are people who therefore can rewire us or reset us, maybe midweek or at some point. And it doesn't have to be a meeting for worship. It can be a coffee or whatever, or walk in the park, whatever you want to do, walk the dog. Um, but gives you a good opportunity to recenter and also to reconnect with people who, because yes, you work with your colleagues and you may like your colleagues and all that's very well and good, but I mean, meeting up with Quakers just means that you are building that community as well, that work colleagues and things, and people who you have to spend time with, if you know what I mean, even if you like them. Whereas these are people who are part of your worship community, and that should be they should be an important part of your life as well. To some extent, obviously you don't have to have them around every day, but I think developing that community is so important, and it's something that I fear that we're losing. I suppose my last point would be, in terms of your mannerism and how you can act in a Quaker way, is firstly try and think of the testimonies. And now it's really hard, and try and think, how on earth am I going to uphold all of those all the time? You can't. But what I'm trying to do, for example, is I'm trying to think of one and thinking, how can I um how can I uphold that one as best as I can every day? And to be honest, I sort of dabble between two. I'm Because there are some which I think I don't think I'm very capable of doing, and others I don't feel I'm not there yet. But I feel that I can and strive to uphold truth and simplicity as often as I can. And because those are ones which are down to my actions and are things I can make instant changes of, and that makes it so much easier than peace, for example, which is hard. However, so for example, in your day-to-day interactions, how truthful are you? How simple are you? How succinct are you? Now, as you can probably tell, I'm one who's rather verbose and likes to talk and doesn't necessarily all the time simply say what needs to be said as succinctly as it ought to be. And I try and work on that. And not in these videos because I've got an opportunity to speak about things I'm really passionate about. But generally, I try and make sure that if something needs to be said, like in a conference or something, that I say my point, it's said, done. And that I'm truthful about it. That I don't I'm not looking to try and have a secret agenda. I'm not out to get a promotion or anything like that. I'm out there to say what I think is true and be simple and succinct about it. Hence the tie. We all come back to the tie. It's not simple, and it's upholding no truth. It's just me looking pretty, and who needs that? So those are the things that I've been trying to do to be more Quaker every day. I think the most powerful one is talk about it. Talk about being more Quaker. Talk about how you're failing to be more Quaker, because it's not an easy path. I think people expect, like, oh, you're a Quaker. Oh gosh, that is tough. I mean, you've got to do all this and that. Yeah, but I'm not good at it, and I'm rubbish at quite a lot of it most of the time. But it's that you're at least trying to be better than just your worldly self. I think that's what at the first point, that's what Quakerism is trying to teach you not to do, not to be what the world is trying to teach you, not being what society is trying to teach you, and showing that to the world. Be a sign, as the early Quakers would have said, but not necessarily walking naked down the streets or pretending you're Jesus in Bristol. Somewhere in the middle. So yeah, what do you do? How are you a Quaker in your day-to-day? Is there anything that you do more than what I've said? And if so, please let me know. I'm trying to be more Quaker. Let's just share those so we can all, hopefully, everyone starts noticing all these Quakers around. I think that'd be brilliant. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you liked it, please do click on the thumbs up and the subscribe button to get more videos about Quakerism in the UK today. It really does help, and thanks once again.